good morning, and welcome back to Saturday Somm-Things. I am Sian. Just recently moved back to Denver in November, and our restaurant COVID orphan. But happy to get back here and working with Argonaut Wine and Liquor. Worked for them almost 20 years ago. I don't know if you knew that, but
Yep.
I had a little stint. And joining me today is Josh Robinson. Today we're going to talk about Bordeaux. So we'll do this every week. We'll pick different topics, just kind of picking up on what people in the store are asking questions about, what they're interested in learning more about. And this week we decided to do Bordeaux. So featuring a couple of wines that Sheila has picked through the Wine and Spirits Guild. I know you know more about that and kind of how that all works.
Definitely. So the Wine and Spirits Guild is kind of a club or a buying group that Argonaut's in that basically what we do is we find kind of private label wines, things we can source and, bring unique product into the store. And it's a group of, independent retailers from all over the country. I think Wine and Spirits Guild stores are in 30 something states, and through, between all the buyers of all these stores in all these states, we try every single wine that, we bring in through that club.
Yeah, and the pricing is pretty outrageous on them too. So I think if you were to buy these wines, regular price, regular stores, they're almost like double what we actually sell them for. So it's a really good deal that we get, and then also that you get as well. And not joking about having tasted these, I've spent a couple of tasting moments with our good friend Mats, some of you probably already know, and we go through and we taste the wines and we thumbs up, thumbs down them and decide whether or not we want to bring them in. So it's nice having this varied, diverse preference group. Like, we all have different wines that we prefer, and it's kind of cool to see what makes the cut and what doesn't.
Definitely. For me, this will be a little different because these are not, as I was told earlier, grape whiskeys. This is actually wine. So this will be new for me.
Yeah, joining whiskey and wine together, probably not the first thought, but I'm seeing, and you were too, like a lot of the wines have been aged in whiskey barrels.
Yep.
Kind of hitting the shelves, which I'm a little freaked out about, but you say they're good.
Yeah, it definitely adds, kind of more of a boozy characteristic, kind of like when you barrel age beer also, more of a boozy characteristic. Usually they tend to be hotter, they pick up some of the alcohol from the barrels, and it just gives a, little bit more of a, fruit forward burst of flavor at the beginning of some of them. So none of these are like that, but definitely something to kind of watch for in wine.
Okay, pretty cool. Well, going into Bordeaux, so you picked Bordeaux for a couple of reasons. Bordeaux has this huge reputation, probably a little bit of a stereotype, as only being really expensive wines, hard to find, but there is so much more out there than an everyday drinking level. So the Médoc, which is like the region of Bordeaux, is pretty large. It kind of starts out at the Gironde River where the estuary spills out into the sea, comes inland, and most of the quality regions that people have heard of, like Saint-Julien, Saint-Estèphe, Pauillac, Margaux, sit within eyeshot of the river itself. But further back, probably about like 7 miles wide, is this whole other area of vineyards called the Médoc. There's the Haut Médoc in there as well. Haut Médoc is slightly elevated, so it's a little bit higher. Further away from the coast, you need height and aspect to get the grapes ripe and have a little bit of personality and diversity there too. So we were tasting a couple of different wines, just quick little label things to begin with, starting with the Chateau Finet. So this is Bordeaux Superior, just one step up from just Bordeaux AOP. So if you see just Bordeaux on the bottle, that's the most basic version. This is one step up, a little bit more alcohol, more restrictions on the yields. This one is a blend of Cabernet and Merlot, and we'll get into that a bit more later. Next one I'm excited about. So this is the Chateau de Belair 2015 vintage, a spectacular vintage for Bordeaux, as is 2010, and we have a couple of bottles hiding on the shelf. Come see me and I'll show you where they are. And this one's from the Land de Pomerol. So this is the right bank of Bordeaux. It'll be more Merlot dominant, and a little bit of Cabernet Franc in there too. And then we go into a Saint-Estèphe. So it's a Chateau, we think Cap Burn, but if I'm going to French it up, I'm going to say Québel. I don't know, I'm not sure. And 2017 vintage. I remember when I did work here before and I just started studying wine, I remember a guest coming in and asking me if vintages were important. And I remember in my naivety saying, oh, they don't really matter, it's the same year after year. And just like my grown-up self cringes when I think of it like that. So we'll start with the Finet. So this one we have on the shelf for about $15.
I get like a kind of raspberry red fruit nose.
I think this is, I think texture-wise on this too. Yeah, they said it is there, so it's like going So definitely nice and balanced with fruit, but the texture's a little bit lighter bodied. And I think sometimes we think with it being Cabernet and Merlot, they're only going to be big, bold wines, and they're not like that. These compared to California Cabernets and Merlot are all just a little bit more delicate and nuanced. And
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a big difference between, the same grapes, California versus French style. So, if you're a big California cab drinker or whatever, you may try something like this and be like, that's not what I was expecting at all.
Absolutely. And I think too, like the blend between Cabernet and Merlot is also going to be different too. So you're saying like left bank and right bank, people get confused by that, but imagine if you were standing in Bordeaux facing the Atlantic Ocean and you've got the river running on beside you. Anything to your left is the left bank. So those are the wines you see more gravel soils, more Cabernet Sauvignon, roughly. There's always exceptions. And then the right bank is everything to the right. So you've got Pomerol and Saint-Emilion, like the bigger regions from there. And there you'll see more Merlot and Cabernet Franc planted. Trivia, you've seen Sideways, right?
I have, yeah.
Tell me about the bottle of wine that Miles is drinking at the end, after he shames Merlot all the way through the movie.
God. You're gonna... I remember the scene. It's out of a paper cup at a fast food restaurant, but I don't remember the bottle.
But the wine that he's drinking, the irony of it all is it's 100% Merlot that he's drinking at the end of the night. It is fantastic. And my nerdiness, that I just bust out laughing when I saw that in the movie theater.
Yeah.
It was amazing, so good. But yeah, the big difference between Merlot in Bordeaux and then Merlot in California. And I think Merlot got shamed, and I just want to stick up for Merlot here. There are really beautiful Merlots all over, and I think the reason it got such a bad rap is in the 80s, like Chardonnay and Merlot, the most drunk grape varietals that we were seeing, mass-produced, bulk production, and not necessarily the best quality that was out there.
Sure.
But a lot of people know what they're doing and make some really delicious examples.
Yeah, there are a lot of examples of that all over the world. Some Australian wines got bad reps because it was bulk produced. Argentinian wines, some of the same thing. And, now some of those regions have really kind of honed their craft a little bit more and are really producing great wines.
Yeah.
So, even some of the stereotypes or whatever that may have been true 10, 20 years ago, now maybe aren't.
Yeah.
So it's fun to kind of retry some of those regions and things like that.
And you go back to things that, in your formative years, like the first time you taste something, that you just might have a negative experience with it, and that turns you off it forever.
Sure.
Chianti for me, first time I ever had Chianti was gross, but now I like it.
Right.
So Finet, I like this. I think it's that cheerful every day. I easily make this a house wine and I drink that when I go home.
Definitely, great table wine. Awesome. Would go great with most foods that you would drink a lighter to medium bodied red with.
Yeah, for sure. Right, this is I'm really excited because I love that 2015 and 2010. I have two bottles at home of the same producer, different vintages, 10 and 15, and I can't wait to tie them side by side. Both vintages were really well received, and I think that if you can be patient with wine and just give it a couple extra years, you really are rewarded by that. And I think that somebody else has done the aging for you and kind of kept it away. You can't get it until we say so. A lot of these chateaus are starting to do now too.
Yeah, definitely. That's part of the American palate is, 95% of wine or something is drank within 4 hours after leaving the store.
Yeah.
Which isn't the case in a lot of other countries. So it is kind of cool when you can find something older on the shelf that has some age to it. You can try what it would be like if you were to cellar some of your own wines.
Yeah. So this one that right off the bat for me is just so much more interesting. And with a lot of the French wines, you get all the earthy components of the fruit set first, and then you'll get the fruit flavors afterwards. And here it's just so much more interesting.
Yeah, on the nose, I definitely get more of like a darker fruit, stewed plum type of nose as opposed to the kind of raspberry, lighter red fruits on this one.
And I think with all of them, there's always going to be typical Bordeaux with blackcurrant and mint and cedar. As they age, you kind of see them fall more into like cigar box and tea and really like just not desiccated, but just mature and developed fruit. And the finish on this goes forever. So, I knew I was going to like this one.
Yeah, that one's really, really good.
Yeah. All right, now let's go into Chateau Québert, or call it.
Yep. Oh, we'll go with that.
So this one, again, left bank, so more Cabernet dominant, and this is coming from Saint-Estèphe. So Saint-Estèphe being one of those rated regions. This one's a little closer to the ocean, so it's a bit cooler than some of the others. So these Cabernet dominant wines will probably be a little bit more structured and heavy and weighted than, say, something from Margaux further away.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna say, I mean, the nose, it's got almost a little bit of that like Sharpie or highlighter note that that you can sometimes get on wine, which I associate with kind of bigger, not necessarily tighter, but more structure, more tannin type wines.
For sure, I definitely feel a lot more tannin on this, and a lot of the black fruits. This is more like Cabernet drinkers Bordeaux. I think if you're a California cab, I would start with something like this, if that's what you're used to. If you like blends and you like something a little bit funkier, I would go right bank. And if you just want something to drink quickly, I would start right here.
Absolutely, I think that's a good characterization of all three for sure.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite?
My favorite actually was probably the Bel Air.
Yes. You have great taste, John. You really do.
Yeah.
All right, well, this was fun. Thank you for joining
Absolutely.
me this week. We'll see Josh again on Wednesdays for a Whiskey Wednesday.
Yep, we'll be on Whiskey Wednesday, and since you had me on your show, we'll have to have you sometime over on Whiskey Wednesday.
You know I'm Scottish, right?
We can do Scotch.
Born and raised,
Yeah.
must is Scotch, I insist. All right, well, thank you all very much, and we'll see you again next week, if not before. Come see us in the store. We'll have a little display up front with these wines that were featured, and those will be on sale discounted for the rest of the week. Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers.